Hey guys, welcome back to Home Built, and this week we are back on the dash of Harry, and hopefully we can finish it up. Alright guys, welcome back, and those of you who were watching last week will have seen that I started redoing my dash panel on Harry. I was never really happy with it. This is what I had before, so my goal is to actually make it look very similar to this. It's just that this was made out of thin MDF, and the everything's sort of loose and sloppy and messy, and it just never looked that great. And of course, because I recently fit my classic retrofit air conditioning system, I also wanted to get some more vents in the car. So I've got the 964 vents that I've put in from a later 911, and they are all sitting in there nicely now. So I've got this nice new dash that I need to finish up. For those of you who missed it, I'll put a link up above so you can catch up, and think about subscribing if you haven't. It does make a difference. Hit the bell and all that sort of stuff. So today, now that I've got the basic framework ready to go, I need to start looking at doing my little insert panels that are going to eventually be trimmed in my tartan. There were a few questions about people saying, hey, am I going to do it in tartan again? You betcha. I love my purple tartan. I am very happy with it in this car. It was definitely the most controversial thing about the build of this car, and I like it. So I'm keeping it, and that's going back in here, but I just want it to be nice and neat and tidy, not like it was before. So the first thing is I need to take a couple of these panels out and start measuring up, making my inserts so that they're just the right size to be able to slot inside once they are trimmed. So let's pull some of these out and start getting into it. All right, so I pulled out a couple of my panels and measured sort of the distance I need, and did a bit of trial and error and made up sort of a little test piece. So this is just one layer of the aluminium, and it sits in beautifully in with the trimming on it and all that sort of stuff, just loosely there, so that I know the thicknesses that I need, and this is going to fit nicely. But it sits a little bit too shallow in the groove. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually use 2 layers of aluminium underneath this, but I'm going to have to play around with it a little bit to get it the thickness that I want. So I don't want to have 2 solid layers. I don't need to add an extra whole sheet of aluminium there just for that. So I'm just going to have a couple of strips at the back and a full solid plate at the front. I think that should do the job nicely. Okay, so I've got all my insert pieces now cut out and nicely shaped out. It was very tedious, time-consuming stuff, getting them all just right so that I can bolt them back into the car and they'll be sort of nice and neat and tidy. As I mentioned earlier, one of the things that I still need to do is when these sit in there, even when they're trimmed, they sit too shallow inside of this, this channel. So I'm going to fatten them up a little bit, but instead of going solid plates on the back, I've just cut out a bunch of these little sort of bars of aluminium, and because welding them will sort of warp them a fair bit, I'm actually going to basically glue them into place. I've got some black Sikaflex that I'm going to glue them all in. That will seal them in quite nicely, and then I can trim over the top. So it just gives them a little bit more meat. So let's go through now, fatten these things up, and then we can start looking at trimming them. All right, so I've glued all of my strips on with some Sikaflex all the way around the outside of these panels, these insert panels, so that I've got that extra thickness there. And then when I add the trimming over the top, that's going to look a little bit better. So while I leave them to set up, I'm going to go back to my background panels. So these things are the sort of going on first, and then we've got the sort of the extra panel that goes over the top, and then the insert that goes inside that. So you're going to see these aluminium strips of these ones, but the rest of this is all going to be trimmed up. So I've dug up some more black vinyl, and so first things first, I'm going to sort of put some spray adhesive over these and quickly cover them in vinyl, these backing plates. It's going to be relatively quick and easy. People always ask what glue I use. I'm not sponsored by these guys, but this is the stuff that a motor trimmer friend put me onto, and it seems to really do the stuff. It's Tensor Grip T65. It's very expensive, but it's really good. And most of the other stuff I've used always seems to just peel off, whereas this stuff actually seems to just really grip into it. So I am going to be using this, spraying these up and trimming up these bits, and then we can sort of gradually put everything together. All right, I got all these pieces trimmed up. They look really good. I've gone around, so just basically sprayed the glue on the front and then just trimmed around the back to sort of get it to flex around the corners and stuff like that. And it's a nice, neat finished piece. These edges don't look the neatest, but you won't actually see these edges. So these look so much better than what I had before. They're just a nice, neat, solid backing piece to fill those voids. So I've got all of the basic bits ready. So it's time to move on to the center bits and see if I can actually do the inserts and get the inserts mounted in. All right, so what I was doing then was I was going through and because I've got my insert pieces, for example, on this one, this particular one is for the ignition area, and it's actually held in by the cover for the ignition barrel, and also the hazard switch and the light switch. They all screw into it, so they all hold this cover plate in on top, so I don't need any fixings on this particular one. The glove box one I'm going to have to glue in because there's no way to sort of get any fixings in behind without drilling holes through the glove box, which I don't really want to do. So that one's that. But the center panel where the car stereo goes, the issue is that there is no sort of good way of holding it on. So what I went through and did, as you saw, was I actually put in a couple of these aluminium riv nuts, which I countersunk as far as I could, and then I've filed the top off so that when I trim it, they'll be hidden underneath the tartan trimming, but I'll be able to put a short bolt in from the back. This will clip through all 3 layers and be able to bolt it together like that. So that's the plan for these. So now I've got that done. It's time to trim them in black vinyl first. That's not what they're going to end up in, but we'll do that first just to get a nice even layer over the top. All right, so I've got all my insert bits. They're all trimmed up and they fit into their sort of places quite nicely. It's given it a bit more depth now and that's looking good. But I've got to finish it off, and I am going back with the purple tartan because I am a tartan fan, back with what I had before. That's it's the theme. It's the trimming of the seats that's still there, the door trims, everything like that. That's all still there that I really like. So it may be one of the more controversial parts of the car, but it is definitely staying because I like it. And that's all that matters. So the difficult part now is to make sure that I get all of these pieces so the tartan lines up the whole way across the dash. So the pattern has to line up, but also I want to try and get this white line being dead center in the dash. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through on the back of all these pieces. I'm going to mark the center so I can line them up when I lay them down onto the tartan, and we can get this nice even pattern all the way across the interior. And obviously I'm still going to have to line it up so that when they're folded on the ends, the visual part still matches up as the tartan goes. It doesn't sort of start with one bit of tartan and then there's like a different part of it. It just looks like it's a flowing piece, which is not as easy as it looks. So we're going to tuck into that now. I am really happy with that result. They sit in really nicely into its gap. There's not a lot of protrusion. It's sitting just, these bars are just higher than the tartan. I've got it nice and straight and square. I actually had to redo the glove box one because I wasn't happy with how straight it was. But now they're actually sitting really nice. This all lines up. So particularly these two panels where it goes from the glove box to the stereo, the pattern of the tartan lines up and continues through. So I'm very happy with it now. I definitely was not happy with it when I first did it. So now I think it's time to go back and start tidying up these the actual tops of these frames. Because of this metal aluminium that I've bashed around and been working on, it's got a few little nicks and stuff on it, so I'm just going to sand them all and then probably Scotch Brite them and just get them looking nice and bright and flat and smooth and clean and tidy before I install them in the car. Well, it's all in now, and I am really happy with it, but it's not finished yet. There's still more to do. I've got to build a dash pad for underneath. I've still got to do some caps for the end of the where I put the vents in. This panel here is actually not attached properly to the glove box or anything yet. I've just sort of taped it in there loosely for the time being. So there's still a few little bits and pieces left, but I've run out of time for today, so that will have to do. But I'm really happy with it. I am so much happier with the finish and the quality of what I've done this time compared to the first time. The first time was okay, but it wasn't good enough. And I wanted it to be just right. And yeah, and I think this is going to do the job. Everything is sort of much neater, tidier, crisper, which is what I think it deserved. I do have some more 3D printed stuff. I'm actually, there were a couple of suggestions about this dash vent. I'm going to actually make myself a 3D printed surround for this to sort of tidy it up a little bit more than what it currently is, because I'm not that happy with it. But that's all going to have to wait for next week. So hopefully you enjoyed this series. Please do the things like subscribe. Join us on Patreon to watch the videos a day before everybody else ad-free. And if you need parts for any of your Porsches, make sure you compare prices at PorschePartsByJeff.com first. All right, guys, we'll see you next time.